heads up.
This webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Preparing to live stream your webinar for YouTube Live.
Well, we just go off about artists.
Nobody can see it yet, but
We haven't. We're not.
I like to give everybody a heads up.
This webinar is now streaming live on
No,
YouTube.
we're not. Preparing to live stream your webinar. Please stop. Good Lord. That's just our,
Like an echo.
here.
Oh, I see.
We're okay. Every time. Every damn time.
What happened this time? Fuck it up?
Beautiful.
It's just the the screenshot that YouTube uses for like the beginning of the video is always so choice.
Oh, like,
You're looking at the screen so hard trying to figure it out.
And now one with my
And now
eyes
one with
closed. All right.
I should ask before we get going, what's the rating on this, aka do we cut the
Oh,
swears?
you can say swear
say
words.
Say it if you want.
It is not made for children.
Okay. I always want to check because I have a bad habit and I need to be aware.
I don't. I have an incredibly clean mouth, and I'm super
Lindley invented expletives.
all the cuss words.
And publish.
My dad taught me
Now.
all the cuss words.
let's do it.
I've been cussing. I can't even remember not being
Cool.
like.
Here we are.
So here we are.
Yay, we're here. Welcome to the Hex.
Hi.
We are so excited to have you guys here. Oh, yes, please. Lisa's going to turn off the fan so that we don't have that ambient noise in the background. We have had you both on our list to come and hang with us in the Hex for such a long time. We're so excited to have a team.
Yes.
Up until now, we've had just individual creators on, but seeing that Lisa and I are also a creative team along with Lindley, we're super excited to have a conversation about what it's like to collaborate. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Introduce yourself.
We can start with Alston.
Do we need to introduce ourselves? Or are we over that now?
People know us.
Are we done? Okay, I just didn't.
Hi, everyone. We are HexComix.
We're HexComix.
We are.
Lisa K. Weber, artist and co-creator of Hex 11.
I am Kelly Sue Milano, and I am the writer and co-creator of Hex 11.
I'm Lindley Forrest, and I just hang out.
Also
I think we do a little
broadcasting
bit.
live from Austin, Texas.
I am. Actually, I'm in Bryan College Station, home of Texas A&M University.
Wow.
I'm the
Right.
editor and the producer of HexComix.
Stay safe and healthy down there.
Sarah and Alston from Wasteland Comics.
Hmm?
Yep, Wasteland Comics.
Kick-ass comic called Glitch, which is amazing. But please do tell us all about yourselves.
I'm Alston Novak. I am the artist and co-creator of Glitch. It's our sci-fi punk comic that you can find on the Macroverse app. Sarah was the originator of the idea and writer.
Yeah,
I'm trying to like give a lead.
yeah. Sarah, writer, co-creator, that's gamer, D&D player, crazy cat lady. I like tea. I've noticed a lot of like, I didn't bring the alcohol this time. I brought the tea.
Hey, you bring
On my tea tower here. So.
Wow.
I genuinely assumed that was a dice tower.
collection.
I did too. I was like, oh, season D&D, that's some sort of D&D business back there. But no, it's tea.
No, with a bunch of tea.
I do have to ask, because I haven't checked in a while, how many dice sets are you up to at this point?
It's calmed down because now everything's virtual.
Mhm.
But I have like 5 luxury dice sets. So it's not that bad. Yeah.
I
The
have
luxury dice.
That seems,
very reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah.
What makes
Yeah.
them luxury?
They're pretty and they're made of nice materials. And
Okay.
it's a problem.
I have 5 dice sets, but I have like the crappy plastic ones, so it's
Those are
the same, but a little bit, yeah. I have
You
one
don't
set
break
that's a
the bank.
metal set. I have one fancy set, but
I feel when I look at dice sets, I feel the way that I used to feel as a kid when I would like pick out my bowling ball. And it's very similar texture. Like the material of them is very similar and they sparkle. And it's that feeling of
I
nostalgia.
love when they sparkle.
These are mine.
Yeah.
This is an extension of me.
Yeah.
These
So
are mine until I start throwing gutter balls 3 times in a row, and then that ball
Yeah,
is
and
dead.
then they
to me.
die, and then it's like go back.
That dice set is dead to me. New color.
Exactly. Bingo. So that's awesome. So D&D is a language that we speak. I absolutely love that. So I think what I want to, speaking of that, because for D&D, I mean, yes, you play as an individual, but sometimes you play on a team. And this is my beautiful segue into teamwork.
Try to play as a team.
Thank you. We really are interested in hearing about how you guys work as a team and what your collaboration process is like. And I think we can start with, how did you guys get started? How did you meet? What's your origin story?
Oh my gosh, first of all, I just want to gush about how awesome it is working with Alston, as cheesy as it is. Like, I just, Alston's the best to work with.
There's
Alston manages,
excellent to collaborate with. So like I'm gonna let you talk, but I do want the record to show this is a two-way compliment street. But go ahead.
yeah, we worked together as audience pages at CBS. That's how we originally met. And then we both continued working on the Television City lot. So we were still like in contact. And I saw Alston's art on their Facebook page. And I was in the middle of working on a script, and I was just like, hey, your art's really awesome. Do you want to work with me?
And I read the script and went, ooh, yes.
I love
So
it.
I got lucky in that it was like a close friend who I already knew and didn't have to like go, because we weren't even like, I don't think we imagined it would actually become anything. Like, it was just going to be for fun. And
like, you always hope, but you're like, this will be like a one shot.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be a one shot. That's the joke I always have to bring up, but it was supposed to be short, and we got excited.
And it's not going to be short anymore.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
You gotta do it for yourselves first. You know, if you start from that place of like, I just really want to make this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From so many stories of talking to creators, like that's like your chances of being successful if you start from that perspective are like 90%. Then if you're like, you know what, I've got to figure out what do I make that somebody will buy. It's like you're gonna have a harder time making that sell or figuring it out, because it's like the authenticity of the, you know, of the collaboration and of the wanting to tell the story, I think is what makes it shine, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that's how you like stick with it, because I've, you know, done lots of projects before, some that I've done short term, some that I've done long term, and if you kind of start out with this is going to be a big thing, you get so excited about the end goal that you forget about all the work in the middle. And if you're just like, hey, I just think this is really neat, I think it's neat, and I get excited every time we talk about it, like, you're just more likely to put in the work even if it doesn't go anywhere. You're like, I did it and it was fun, and I'm like, 5 years later I'm not proud of the art I did, because that's what happens naturally as an artist, but you're proud that you did that project and you stuck with it. So
Lisa was just talking recently about looking back at issue 1 of Hex 11 and being like,
See, as a non-artist, I always hear that, and I'm just like, but it's so pretty.
Oh my God. Well, and Lisa will constantly be like, well, I don't really like this, and I'm like, what? All I see is beauty.
I'm actually finally getting to the skill.
Like, I don't know why did I choose this camera angle? And it was like, I only had just started drawing the characters. So I like, why, like, this angle is weird and their nose doesn't.
Angle's weird, right. They're off model. You're like, oh, that color contrast though.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Well, and I love
the same language.
This is so perfect, because I feel like no matter where you are and no matter where you get to in your career as an artist, sorry, Lisa, I'm covering your face. Where you get to, you have this feeling no matter what, and it just is something that you need to get cozy with and settle in, because it's never going to go away. It's just a part of the process.
Yeah,
for sure. And also, like, we're our harshest creators. I have friends who are like artistically inclined but don't necessarily do the same thing I do, and there'll be times where they're like, to be honest, I prefer some of your issue 1 stuff, and I'm like, A, hurtful, B, care.
Like, number 1, I didn't ask. And number 2, I guess.
Like, there are times when I'm like, those are my least favorite panels, and people are like, no, I adore those. And that's just, there's always going to be that dissonance sometimes. And you have to remember as an artist, like, I'm very harsh on my work, but everyone else is like, this is beautiful. What are you talking about? And you're like, okay.
Right.
And always
You have to
accept
remember
that.
it's like, you can't, we were talking about this earlier today too. Like once you put it out there, it's not really like yours anymore. So you can't keep going in there and trying to fix it and change it because it belongs to other people now.
Exactly.
And so it's like, it kind of stands as this like, this monument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did this and we got it out there, and that's like the hugest step too. I mean, what was
Yeah.
that like for
Honor
you?
your
Yeah,
fans.
put it out
You have
there.
to honor your fans. Like it belongs to them now. And if they love it, then you have to say yes. And I'm so glad that you do. It means so much to me that this is meant so much to you. You know, you've got to keep, we cannot, like, obviously we talk a lot about it. Like we were just saying, Lisa's always like, oh, but this and oh, that. No, I should redo this entire issue or whatever. And we can sit and talk about that, but you should never let other people know that you're that. Like you shouldn't be critical, because then it's like you're kind of being like, well, you don't know what good is then.
Yeah.
You don't want your fans to feel that way, because that's not true. They do know what good is, and maybe you need to be a little more gentle with yourself.
Well, and on that same kind of thread, we had like putting it out into the world, as Lisa was saying, when you know, Hex 11 was your baby for so many years, and it still is, obviously. And then when we put it out, that very first, back when it was Stanley's Kamikaze, it was like, oh, it's gone.
Yeah,
Gotta let go.
it's
What was that experience like for you guys putting out the first issue of your book?
It was really surreal for me. It was like the first thing I'd ever been a part of that was like for public consumption. Plus it was on this like brand new platform that like nobody had ever heard of. So there was like this excitement about that. And it was like this format that I had never envisioned seeing it in, but I was like falling in love with as I was seeing it for the first time with other people. And I was like, oh, so it's been like super cool. And I don't know, I feel like you guys talking about like all the critics and stuff with like art. And I used to be that way with my writing really, really badly. But when I see my writing brought to life with Alston's art, I don't really feel that anymore. And now I'm like, this is great. I love this. This is fantastic.
That is the true power of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you get to carry the weight, because it is heavy. I remember sitting there when we got issue 1 done, and it was like, and then it was time to release it. And Lisa had this look of like sheer terror on her face, like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, and I was like, what are you talking about? You just made, I mean, obviously we're all sitting here being like, this is amazing. And she was just like, but wait a minute. And I felt it too. Like, well, I mean, it is when it's out there, I guess, like people could come back and say horrible things or something. But then I was like, no one's doing this. This stuff's good. But there is that real thing, like, oh no, I'm giving this over to the court of public opinion, and it is out of my hands now. But it's such a good exercise. You know?
It's very good, and it's also helpful.
Carrying
the weight is super helpful, especially like it is hard for me to promote my own work and my own art, but when it's Sarah's story, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can promote this comic because like I'm not the only one out here. It's a group effort. It's like, I don't know if my art does it, but the story's great and you should read for that. And you should, I don't know, it gives you like
promoting it for the other person's contribution.
That's completely the way that I've always been writing Hex 11. I'm always like, well, you know, it's Lisa's story, so that's what really makes the writing shine. And her art is so incredible that, you know, I mean, wow. There's no way that you're not going to just fall in love because her art is so beautiful. And I've said this to Lisa so many times. We get into these conversations often, and I feel I would love to hear your guys' experience of this too, where I'm like, well, you know, like, I'm not really that great of a writer. I just have really great material to work with that, you know, you give, that you have, and that you create your stories so beautiful. And Lisa's like, shut. Because we've said, and Lisa has said this, which is so heartwarming to me, that she's like, your writing has made me a better artist. And I absolutely feel the way that she does about her art in terms of making me a better writer. So I'm curious if that is something that the two of you have experienced throughout your collaboration.
I would say I agree with that. Yeah.
It would have been really amazing if one of you was like, no.
I can cut Sarah off at any time. I'm ready to go solo.
I think it's different for each creative team. You know, the way that that one person contributes their art form and the way that the two kind of integrate. I really do feel that they're at certain points you have to step up. You know, and that has certainly been the case for me with Lisa, and with Lindley for that matter.
Meet the challenge.
Being like,
It's much easier to do it with the team
Yeah.
than it is to try to confront it along the way. And I'm curious, Lisa and I were just talking about this not that long ago. We used to get more so than now. I mean, in the early days, people would ask us all the time, like, "Oh, so are you guys all still friends? Like, oh wait, don't you fight all the time?" And we were
I feel like male teams don't get asked that very often.
I think so too. You
Totally.
know,
Very, very true. It's always like, oh, you guys are such like buddies,
Oh
right?
my God. Now we're cooking gas. Let's get into this. Am I right?
but I was
Many of the questions that non-male teams, and I should say, I would go out there and say non-cis men teams
Yeah.
get asked are things like this. Like,
well, how many all women teams are there?
I know.
Which is another thing, you know,
Yeah.
there's some sort of rare.
You guys fight all the time? What the?
I will say, I wish I could see Alston more. The pandemic is just like, I never see Alston anymore.
We used to have lunch. Do you remember that 3 years ago?
But
When we were first working on the book, Lisa and I slept in adult bunk beds.
We did. That's how close we were.
Aw.
sacrificing.
We did.
We
That's
had
part
to
of
keep
the
the team
story.
together. We had to keep the schedule on point.
Crazy.
We
We're
definitely.
going to San Diego Comic Con. We need issue 5 done by then.
Yeah.
How have you guys?
Yeah.
How has your productivity fared in these times?
Yes.
You know.
I'm trying to get back into it. Like the beginning of quarantine, I was trying to, like, my work-life balance was completely off kilter because like my job was transitioning to work from home. And I'm like, I am terrible at working from home because I'm just like, when am I not working? When am I working? What is happening? I don't know. So I was like spending all my time working for the show that I was working. And now we're finally on like hiatus. And I'm just like, okay, I have to get back to my big girl writing discipline routines. I need to get this done.
Yeah.
But it's been rough. But I think I'm gonna be getting back into it. Like,
what issue are you guys on? Like, where are you? How far? What are you working on right now?
we're on season 2.
Yeah.
And we're like about, I'd say maybe a quarter of the way through season 2. We have a more scripts written than like would have been released yet, and I'm going through and like proofing them because time and making sure. I was like, hey, you know what? There's things that I want to start teasing now that I know the format and everything.
Yeah, I'm working on drawing episode 4 right now for season 2. So that's, I think it's out of 10 for this season.
Yeah, I think I'm aiming for somewhere between 10 and 12 episodes per season. Because we're going off the Macroverse like TV formatting thing, since like we were originally going with issues and volumes, and then Macroverse picked us up and we're like, well, there's no point in us doubling our work right now.
Change our whole format.
And formatting it for so we'll just do that.
Yeah.
When it was written in issue like format, we've only I think covered the first issue because it was one of those like somewhat longer first issues to kind of introduce the world and everything.
Yeah.
So
And
now
when
we're
you
kind of getting into issue 2.
Oh man, it's such a good setup. It's like, I mean, you guys have done a great job. It's excellent world building. I love like that it's a post-apocalyptic world that's also like bright and fun.
That has been my key since day one. I was just like, post-apocalyptic is very popular right now, and I love and respect all the like dark, grungy post-apocalypse, but I'm so over gray.
Yes.
Seriously.
It's making it hard for me to find things to watch on TV and stuff sometimes because there's so much like dark, gritty stuff. And like I acknowledge objectively a lot of it is very good television, but I'm just like, I'm so exhausted from how dark it is.
Yeah.
That's why we love Fury Road so much, because it was so bright.
It's very much like a post-apocalyptic kind of sci-fi, really beautiful and bright story that I just recently watched that I loved. Lisa watched it last night. It's Palm Springs.
Love it
Palm Springs.
so much.
It was
So fantastic.
marvelous.
Yeah,
like it's
really good.
Sci-fi, but also kind of like rom-com
for sure.
And it's like the Palm Spring desert landscape. It's so great. And
I
it's
need to watch this.
Like also like Groundhog Day,
yeah.
but without
I appreciate
the
that because I completely agree with you guys that it's like, okay, we get it. It's dystopian and it's sci-fi, but it doesn't have to be us living in tanks and you know,
Yeah, exactly.
wearing all of this like found combat gear, you know. And that's like what
and it's like I love it. It's like everybody has a fashion sense in Glitch, you know.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's got like their personal style that they're maintaining in the apocalypse.
Look, I like to have fun with that. Wait till we meet more groups who have more supply.
Oh yeah. Like we've gotten like the tiniest little like snippet, and the world has really expanded since working with Alston. Like I feel like my idea was small before working with Alston because of my like limited like writerly imagination of it. And then Alston keeps designing all these characters that are meant to be background characters, and I'm like, no.
Look, I started out, so when Sarah first like came to me with this story, I was like, this is super cool. Consider you've got like 2 bandits in the desert. What if there were like clans of bandits and each of them had their own vibe, and then each individual person in the group had their own vibe, because I really just like designing characters, and that's where my heart's at. And I just designed a bunch of Cactus Clan, and there's gonna be some pirate folk coming up soon, and there are other gangs that I already started designing because I have no self-control.
But this is awesome. I think this is a perfect time in the conversation for you to tell everybody who's watching what your story's about.
Yes, please.
Do it.
So we were originally calling it just like sci-fi post-apocalyptic, and then we were introduced to the concept of solar punk, which like it's like sci-fi, kind of like in the cyberpunk-y kind of thing, but focus on renewable energy, environmental issues, climate change, stuff like that. And it's not super clear in the very beginning of the series, but as it goes on, that becomes like a bigger part of the plot and the design of things. So it's about like a few hundred years into the future after an apocalyptic event. Takes place in a wasteland, and I think we've already revealed in the comic it's Death Valley. So like, that's my personal, I'm obsessed with Death Valley. It's gorgeous and I love it. And we follow a lone like teenage scavenger named Ari and her little pet kit fox Zephyr, because cute animal sidekicks.
Must have.
Who doesn't love a
We
cute
were raised on Disney films. What?
Yeah.
animal?
Miyazaki. And yeah, she comes across an ancient artificial intelligence that is just being introduced in the series in the latest episode coming out. So something to look forward to. And then it basically puts a target on her back for a bunch of really powerful people in this wasteland that she's been hiding away like a hermit this whole time. And now she's like, oh, people want this thing. So now I'm on the run. I'm really bad at describing things. Often.
It's a power struggle, everyone fighting her for this very rare ancient technology that she's like, it's broken and doesn't work. Why is everyone coming after me? Please leave me alone. I'd like to go back to my hermit in the mountains thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So rad.
That's a good character setup for sure.
Always love a hermit.
I know, right?
Listen. Oh, I love it so much. I love a hermitude.
Mm-hmm.
So quarantine is going well for you.
No. because I have the opposite of that with my
Not a hermit too.
husband and my toddler and my cat that is larger than any cat should ever be. Huge cat.
Lovely.
So, total pervert.
Mhm.
And is a teenager right now. So attitudinal. And he's also like a cat and a dog and a rabbit and a raccoon all in one.
Mhm.
Gigantic
Beast.
animal.
You have a mythical
Very
creature.
handsome. Thank God.
Beautiful eyes.
Beautiful, beautiful ragdoll cat. But wow. He's
a
got a
handful.
personality and an energy that really does fill a room. It takes over.
Yeah. He's
When
Surprised my cat's not
around,
like
you're gonna
bugging me and
know it.
meowing all the time.
He's not this
Usually
kind of cat
senses Zoom.
that takes you by surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's there.
Yeah.
So no, I have no time to myself ever.
That's fair.
Man.
Surrounded by folks.
Which is why it's nice to read about hermits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love to
Yeah,
read
lots
about
of
them and
girls.
imagine them.
You're not in. She's always. Tell me about Macroverse. Like, how is when you there's such a great new platform, but so and you can kind of touch briefly on how you're building. Originally, we're going to do issues, but then because of Macroverse, like explain to the people who probably aren't familiar what's up with that and how this has worked out for y'all.
So Macroverse is kind of like a new digital comics app that launched last year. What year are we in? Oh my God.
Wasn't it
Um,
laptop?
In October at LA
Yes.
Comic Con, yeah.
A lifetime ago. It's like a format for digital comics that's really trying to emphasize the comic part, really just streamline the whole process. So most of the comics on there are comics that have been originally published in some capacity, you guys included, and then kind of
We are on Macroverse too, by the way.
yeah.
But I want you guys to tell me about, because you guys went there natively.
Yeah, so most of the comics have been kind of retroactively formatted for it. We were one of the comics where they caught us when we were in the very early stages of planning for print. And so I was like, well, we can keep planning for print and then back format that, but that feels like a whole extra step that we ended up deciding. We were just like, we're going to focus on the Macroverse
Still all
format
in.
and we'll come back to issues in the future. That'll be another discussion another day. And so the formatting kind of changed because Macroverse really tries to focus on like single panel at a time, the timing aspect of it. It turns it, planning wise as an artist, it turns it more into like if I were planning for a storyboard for like an animation piece rather than a book, because you're focusing less on how do I format these panels on a page to kind of work as 7 panels in a unity, and they end up becoming kind of standalone images that you can, you know, zoom around in and jump in and out of, but for the most part you're just kind of like looking at a single panel, clicking through, and it ended up changing the format so much that we went from having one very long issue to splitting that up into an entire season of 6 episodes, just because you can lengthen moments out. There's not really a limit on how long or short they are, so sometimes I'd be like, oh, we're just gonna like sit on this one panel for like, they call them taps, and we're gonna do that for like 8 tabs, and we'll zoom in a little bit, I'll change the expression a little bit, but in a comic book format that might look a little funny if you just have the same panel 8 times. In this, it's you tap through it such you almost don't notice it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's little things, but it just kind of changes the way you interact with the story a little bit more.
Yeah.
And to me, it almost feels a little more like animation. Like it's not quite there, but like it's a step between comics and animation, which we were originally like the original script for Glitch was supposed to be for like a short animated script, but we're just like, we don't have the resources or the time to do animation.
Yeah.
We were like, let's make it a comic.
A perfect match then, and it's also nice because especially in these changing times, printing things and you know when we had talked back in the early days when you guys were getting started about, well, you know, we make floppies, individual issues, because we needed to go to cons to build our fan base, and so you needed something that you could be there with to move it along or whatever. But the reality of printing is complicated. I mean, in and of itself it's not, but it's like it's expensive. Where do you store them? You have to try to get the right number of them so you're not reprinting over and over. It's not environmentally sensitive at all. And then with the internet coming and all these new ways to deliver this stuff, it's like, I want to be able to do this differently, but I want it to also still be accessible and as engaging as holding something in your hand. And it's like, I think this microverse thing is pretty cool. Like it's very, really redefining what comics can be, which I think is awesome. And you being able to get it on the ground floor, how innovative are you right now? That's super cool. Like you're being able to actually take the art form and really take it to this whole nother level. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think how early it was for us really helped us go all in with it. We're like, we literally have nothing to lose. This isn't like we weren't an established franchise or anything yet. Like we didn't have physical books that we were working on and just trying to adapt it and make it as good or anything. We're just like, literally, they're offering us a chance to put it in front of people's eyes without us having to find a printer and pay money to get it printed. So we'll give this a try, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, awesome. Have you had any kind of like favorite fan feedback since you launched?
I was gonna say, I would go ahead.
I think we haven't gotten much direct, because I don't think Macroverse has like commenting features or anything yet. I'm not sure if they're going to be adding those like some of the other apps do. But we get very positive responses on like social media, like on our Instagram. People really love the art, and people appreciate. We got a lot of really positive interaction at LA Comic-Con actually when we launched. I remember quite a few people who like stopped by and they hadn't even read the stuff, but they saw like our poster and then they started checking it out. They liked the representation in the comic, that our protagonist is a woman of color. And it was just like really cool getting to talk directly to people. I'm kind of heartbroken about like conventions right now, because I'm just like, I know LA Comic-Con's happening. They like announced it's happening in December, but I'm just like, I really want to go, but at the same time, I'm just like, is there going to be a vaccine? I don't.
No, it's very optimistic.
It's extremely optimistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's
totally.
The loss of cons is a huge bummer, and that way to kind of like connect to readers that way.
I will say my favorite feedback so far has been the number of people where y'all kind of know this. It's a very LA thing when you're like, oh, I'm doing this project. People are like, really cool. Okay, I'll check it out. And you're like, cool. You're not going to, but thank you. Like it's something we all say. We all get busy. I get it. But like the number of people I've had who like not only actually did go check it out, but then came back to me and were like, that was really good. Like I'm actually subscribed now. I'm like, oh, thank you. Because you know how Macroverse will do it. It's like you get a few issues for free, and then it's like if you want to read more, subscribe to read everything. And so the number of people are like, yeah, not only did I actually read it, but I subscribed. I was like, oh, thank you.
That is very
awesome.
So that's
because there's always that fear. It's just like, am I the only one who likes this? Which is fine. That's fine if I'm the only one who likes it. But it would be nice if other people like it too. Then I can
always hope it's connecting with people. And
yeah. And you guys touched on another thing that we were really excited to talk to you about, and just something that we're excited to talk about in general, which is representation and inclusion in comics. And how just what the experience is like bringing these things to life as creators without it, falling into this sort of, not necessarily a trope, but like becoming a statement piece about, what we believe as people. And yes, it's like we want always for the things that we imagine for a better world to be something that's built into the stories that we're telling. But I was really excited to kind of talk to you guys about the experience that you've had dealing with the amazing representation that you have in your book, and just what it's like to be working in this way and on this platform with also this eye for inclusion, and how your personal experiences have also kind of funneled into your artwork in that way.
Do you want to go first, Austin?
I'll do my best.
Yeah, big question.
I know it's a big question. It's an important question. It's one I get a little nervous about because, at the end of the day, like I am queer, so I can like cover that and be like, okay, I feel confident in my representation there.
Yeah.
With everything else, I'm like, I'm doing my best and I have so much left to learn. Like I can't begin to be like, I have a lot to learn, but it's just one of those things where one of the reasons I get so excited about drawing people and why I get kind of cart in front of the horse about like, oh, there's all these characters down the line that I'm really excited for, is because it is a little bit of a challenge to me to be like, hey, I absolutely was one of those artists growing up where everybody was just like a vaguely skinny white person with blonde hair. That's just what I drew. And now I'm trying to challenge myself to like pay attention, be cognizant. The world is a mixed bag of people of various heights, weights, color, anything and everything. And so just trying to be cognizant in that regard. I know it's like the kind of iffy tokenism thing of like, you don't want to just be hitting a quota, but at the same time, I honestly look at my cast and I'm like, I want to be cognizant of what representation I'm putting where, but I also want to kind of keep a numbers game going and be like, hey, I don't want to have more than 50% white people because that's just unrealistic, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I do a kind of quick gut check. I try to make sure there are lots of lady characters and lots of different representations there, because so often I was that kid growing up where I'm like, if I'm lucky, there's like 2 women in the background and they look exactly the same. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember we're rewatching Avatar right now because it's on Netflix and everyone should be rewatching it. But it was so meaningful to me that as that show went on, they kind of so casually kept putting in more and more female characters to the point that we're in season 3. And I'm like, it's nice just looking at the background and seeing like amongst the guards, there's a bunch of ladies, bunch of guys. They all look a little different, and they're the background characters. You could have easily done one character design and just copy pasted it 20 times.
Yeah.
But that is meaningful, even if it's just a little thing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to replicate that.
Mhm.
I love that.
Well done.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
doing my best.
And I think it helps with our collaboration too, because like Alston has all that going on. And I always joke that when I'm creating characters, I'm not really creating characters. I'm like meeting them in my head and they're just all living in here. So they start off super vague and then I start like getting to know them. And then Alston will give me like a design, and then seeing what they like look like. I'm just like, that is nothing at all what I thought they might look like. It is better. Awesome. Now I know more about this person.
Yeah.
So I think what it is, it's just like I have so many different kinds of friends and family and people that I know all around. And I'm just like, I think I'm just reflecting the kinds of people that I've been surrounded with. And I've just been very lucky to be surrounded by a much more diverse like cast of characters than some other people might have been. But it's been real fun just getting to know all these wacky characters. Like this is the most fun I've ever had, like working on something ever, because I'm just like, these people are crazy and they're just in my head being crazy, and hopefully everyone else enjoys their antics.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah, at a certain point, it's like your characters just kind of take on their own life. And suddenly it's like they'll surprise you, you know?
Mhm.
Like you throw them into a situation and it's like, well, we know that they would probably react this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, oh, they did something kind of unexpected there, or said something
Yeah.
funny there that I didn't even know they would say, even though they're our characters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They
I'm like,
really,
this isn't what I thought you would do. Okay, this is throwing my entire plan off course, but okay, I'll work with this. This is
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well,
And it's definitely like, you know, as long as you're kind of, it seems like as long as you're trusting yourself to like just write a good character,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that it can literally be in any body, you
Mhm.
know, like Austin
And
was saying.
yeah, going back to what Alston was saying, I love the piece about being in a constant state of learning,
Mhm.
learning about other people, learning about other cultures, learning about the an experience of someone who's very different from you. And I feel that that extends itself to writing and creating characters as well, because you also don't want to do that to the characters that you are creating, where it's like, oh, well, this is the character that always shows up and says the funny line at this time, you know? Like you want for them to be just as nuanced and just as full and vibrant and surprising as a real person.
Mhm.
No, absolutely.
So I think that's a really, really great point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're trying to be really like aware of those without it seeming like forced or anything. But there are characters who I get to know them and I'm like, oh, this person's clearly on the spectrum. I need to make sure that I'm being aware of how I'm representing this character because I don't want to fall into stereotypes. Both of my parents work with people with developmental disabilities, so I've been at like volunteer things, although so I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more, but like still that's not my personal experience. And then one of the multiple major characters, different sexualities. We've got a main character who's trans, and that's like not my experience. So I'm just like, just trying to be aware, learning. Alston has taught me a lot, which has been really nice too. So it's been great.
Again, I got queer on lock. That part was good. But
Love it.
no, it's trying to also, I think, honestly be cognizant more than anything. I know a lot of people well-meaningly will get into like, oh, we're gonna do diversity. Okay, so we're just gonna slap that there and that there and that there. And I'm like, your first impulse is actually a little concerning and a stereotype, and you didn't necessarily mean to do that, but think about it. And we've fallen prey to that with some characters where I'm like, ooh, okay, we'll keep doing better. But I think that's the other thing is just, it's very important to try to recognize you will make mistakes and just keep listening when people tell you you've done something wrong and try to do better the next time.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And always keeping it from an authentic place. Like
Yeah.
As a respect for human or these characters, whatever their actual origin may be. But if you're really coming from a place of respect and authenticity, then you're going to be better. You're going to be on the, at least kind of on the side of right, so to speak. And that's the best we can strive for, honestly, is that you're just going to respect your characters, even the bad ones, you know, because we have to learn, we have to respect one another, even if we don't understand or we disagree or whatever. It's like the fundamental of human relationships. And I think you can tell quality stories because you can feel that this is rooted in something real, something true. That's
on that note, we'll obviously go to each of you guys with this one, but what have been your biggest influences in, like, for your art? It doesn't have to be comics, it can be books, movies, TV shows. Like, what is your biggest influence in terms of creating like the work that you're putting out into the world?
I mean, I already name dropped Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I will do all day, every day.
We share a lot of influences.
That is given.
Just by coincidence, the both of us.
It's actually, we talk about this all the time. Like, Sarah and I simultaneously have a few things that overlap really well, and then a ton of influences that are very different. Because my influences are predominantly actually from animation, like Ghibli movies, Disney, anime, just straight up. And Sarah tends to come more from video gaming and stuff. We have just enough that overlaps that we like are on the same page, while also being like, well, I thought to bring this to the table, and oh, I never would have thought of that because I'm bringing this to the table, and it's a good mix of different perspectives. But in terms of
you brought up
influence,
Ghibli, and it's always funny because I always cite like Miyazaki movies as a major influence of mine, but I'm just like, he almost never had scripts, so I don't know how I'm being influenced as the writer with
that type of storytelling transcends. You know? That's,
like his stories were always like, I grew up on them, and like the way he does like romance arcs and the way he portrays friendships and like everything's just, the character development is, those I think stuck with me more than say like Disney, which I'm still really influenced by Disney, but they portray things in a very different way. But yeah, video games a lot for me, actually. Like,
is it Horizon Dawn?
Horizon Zero Dawn is a big influence for Glitch because it's another like way post-apocalyptic, like new society thing. It's beautiful. It's got this phenomenal female lead that it's like, she's my favorite of everything because it's just like embracing like not only strength and ability and all that, but like compassion and stuff too. And I'm just like, you never see too many compassionate heroes where that's like something that they're applauded for having. So
yeah, that's
completely. And I love that you guys were talking about the differences in your influences and how there is some overlap, but there's also a lot of difference. And I'm curious, Lisa and I have a very similar, we have a very similar thing. And when we were talking about the things that we love the most, we found that even in some of the differences, we were noticing that there were a lot of similar textures in the things that we were drawn to, even if they were different, you know, for example, video games or animation. And we were always like, wow, these things that we were super into were these very dark worlds where there was like one or two like bright light hopeful characters, like the Secret of Nim or the Last Crystal or the Last Unicorn. I'm curious to know what those parallels are for you guys. You know, you mentioned the video games, you mentioned animation. Is there kind of like is there a through line in the content that you guys really dig that kind of helps you to yin and yang in that way? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does make sense. We just haven't discussed it before, so now I'm like
Yeah,
on the
I haven't-
spot.
I think
Oh, a new question.
Yay!
I think it, like, I feel like characters are a big, and I'm trying to find a way to like make it tangible.
I'm already on the same page with you.
Yeah, because like one of the ones where we just like solidly overlapped was like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like both of us were like, and I have a feeling it's like with that, every character is like, no character doesn't feel important.
Yeah.
And they're all like three-dimensional individual beings, and it's in this wider, like, because I always consider my focus in Glitch has always been characters and world, and then hopefully the plot comes from that, because that's my like Achilles heel as a writer, is if I focus just on the plot, I'm like, I can't. I'm hoping that the characters give me the plot. Please give me the plot.
I'm just
But I would agree with
No, I don't. It's very conceptual. Can you give me an example of that? Totally get it.
But yeah, no, I would say character is a huge part of it, because I think so I would say the two themes that I would call out is an attention to character and having fun with them too. Like, I feel like a lot of the franchises we both like have a lot of those like zany side characters as well as like fleshed out heroes.
Yeah.
But secondly, I would say, I think part of the reason that we so wanted a bright and colorful post-apocalyptic world is because a lot of the media, I would say we have a lot of overlap on, is simultaneously very dark and very fun at the same time. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Full Metal Alchemist. There are other things that just went out of my brain, but a lot of the shows I like, I always joke, there's this like meme that goes around where a guy is like, hey, I'm on a journey to find the best burger in America. And then he just suddenly like is standing in front of a gravestone and he turns and he's like, and find my wife's killer. And like, that's my brand. I love when stuff is like, we're gonna have a really fun time and then suddenly like kick you in the mouth so hard that this haunts you for 20 years.
The greatest thing I've ever heard.
Like, yeah, I absolutely
Oh my
love
God,
that.
that's perfect.
Yeah, we always talk about how zany the characters are and how wacky things are and how bright it is, but like there's some really dark moments that I've plotted out or directly scripted, and I'm just like,
well, somehow we have to make it for kids.
This is gonna be sad, and I'm gonna cry because I cry at everything. I make myself cry because
you've already made, you haven't even written the scenes yet, and there are scenes that Sarah has just been like, so this is gonna happen, and I immediately was like, I'm crying just on.
It's like one of those fixed point things. It's like, I don't know exactly when it's gonna happen, but it just feels like this one thing has to happen.
Which is so
and I'm sorry, Alston, that you're gonna have to draw this. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
So stressful not knowing when this is coming down the pipeline, but knowing that it's coming.
That's amazing.
Just like life. You know?
It's like life.
But that's what we want to do, I think, with Glitch, is like, there will be some moments where hopefully, you know, it comes across very dark and very creepy and awful, but also times where we're just like, hi, look at these goofy kids with bright hair being completely useless idiots. You know.
And I love what you guys, and I feel that this isn't, at least not in anything that I've read recently, which is not much because again, I have a child that's small. But you guys touched on this piece of friendship, and that's what I always think of when I think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, or when I think of Korra and animal sidekicks, and even Ghibli movies, like there really is this really sweet, subtle foundation of friendship and care for others that kind of drifts through even some of the, Spirited Away is so dark and wild, but there is still that gentle kind of like friendship element.
Yeah.
And I think
understanding others.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really, really, really important piece, and something that is really needed, especially in the medium of comics, where that's not usually a highlight. It's mostly like, we're a team and let's go get the bad guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Found family or I riot.
Yeah. And the friendship is secondary. Like, oh, I love you, bro, or whatever.
Or like, I express my love by taking the piss.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not like, we can't actually just be like,
Yeah.
you're my friend and I love you.
Yeah. And I really feel that even that part of it is very much, that in its own way is adding inclusion, is also not just like you both were saying, it isn't just about having diverse characters, it's also about defining and redefining the way that our characters treat each other. And so I love what you guys were talking about in terms of friendship and having fun and finding your people.
Yeah.
I think that is fucking far out.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And I know that, us as a team, I keep thinking that I'm going to put my hand over here and it's going to come into Lindley's. I keep going like this and I'm like, why can't I see my hand?
The best part is I'm sure we all have different setups. So every time you do that, you're putting your arm around me and Lindley was just
Great.
and I'm like, oh, I'm part of the team now.
So who are we?
On my
That's
screen,
me.
I'm next to you, and Sarah and Lindley are below. Sarah and I are like,
see, yeah, I'm Alston's right below me. You guys are next, and then Lindley.
So I have to be like, Sarah, please. I've kept being like, Sarah, please go next, and you're like, no.
I keep mentally telling myself what the producers on the show I was working on would tell the people, like, it's tempting to look at the individual people that you're talking to, but try to look at the camera like a lot, please, because it just looks so much better. And I'm just like, but I want to look at the people I'm talking to. Ugh.
This is why I have glasses with a glare. You can't see where I'm looking.
Yeah.
Well, and
You don't
I
know
have
where I'm
to,
looking.
if I ever have to talk into the camera, I instantly become like robot person. So tell me about you or self.
Fellow human.
Exactly, Lynn.
Okay, I'm so sorry. This is a slight tangent, but I got a phone call the other day and I didn't recognize the number, so let it go straight to voicemail.
Always.
And then instantly played it, and it was just the 6-second voicemail that was, you have failed to verify you are a human. Goodbye. And I was just like, what does that mean?
Whoa.
Robot uprising has begun.
Skynet.
Yeah, because you needed to verify you were a human to a machine.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute. And
Verify
also,
that you are not a human.
only so they could then send you junk mail. Like, like I don't want your crap. Leave me
It
alone.
was garbage, but it was very ominous, like, goodbye. And I was just like,
I got a new number recently, within like the last 6 months. And this new number, routinely, I will get calls from a Los Angeles number. And I'm always like, no. And I let it go to voicemail. And they're like 2-minute voicemails in Korean.
Oh.
Yeah, I get those too. I get also where it's Chinese. And they're just going off, and they're from Houston. I get these calls from Houston, and it's just, I'm like, wonder what that's about. What are you saying?
that's weird. Because I get a lot of like,
insurance, health insurance.
Totally. Something like that.
For Trump. I don't
yeah,
know.
because like, I get a lot of weird calls, but they don't leave voicemails, they hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I have the Alston experience. I'm like, I always send it to voicemail, and it's 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And you're like, I could have known you.
If you're not going to leave a voicemail, it's not worth knowing you.
No,
Could I? It should have been like, you don't know what you're missing.
Goodbye.
Bye. I love it. Okay, so we're coming into the end of our time together, and so I really want to know, what are you guys into right now? Like, what is one thing that you're super into right now?
Besides D&D?
Maybe D&D.
It could be a show. It could be a song. It could be an album. It could be a cool new thing I've never even heard of.
And if it is D&D, are you doing something like a particular type of thing, or are you always on the same campaign? I'm here with my nephew, and he's got 4 separate campaigns going on.
Yeah, it's like it's the
same people,
pandemic.
Different things.
Yeah, I've got 2 regular weekly campaigns going on, and I'm just like, this is a dream. I've never been able to do this. No one is ever free enough to be able to meet regularly, weekly.
Yeah.
Let alone for 2 different campaigns. Like, what's happening?
Now I feel bad because I'm DMing a campaign and have had to postpone it for like a month and a half because I've been busy.
That's amazing.
Oops, sorry.
I was invited to a D&D group, and I was so excited. They were doing Ravenloft, and I was like, I love vampires. And then I was like, I'm so in. And then they sent the email out to the entire campaign, and they were like, we're going to be doing this Thursday nights at 9 p.m. And I'm like, nope. I can't do it. I love you guys. I was so excited about this, but they're like, yeah, we're going to play from 9 to midnight.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an adult. Try again.
I can't. I'm going to tap out. Boop, boop. First to die. I killed myself.
I killed myself.
But yes. So, Alston, what are you into?
I am holding to the fact that I'm allowed to talk about adult things. I am into a podcast called My Dad Wrote a Porno.
I've seen this.
You guys?
Yes, I saw like some sort of wasn't an advertisement, but some like interview with the dude who made it up, or the lady who made it up, or something. And
Probably.
it was hilarious.
So is it legit, or what? Tell me about
Tell
this.
us about it.
So what it is this guy found out that in retirement his parents had like started writing books and selling them on Amazon, and at first it was like, I think, travel guides and stuff or something, but then his dad very quickly was like, I'm going to write erotica. He was like, time out. So he made a podcast where he reads chapter by chapter to 2 of his friends, and the 3 of them are just like, what is this horrible thing that you have found? It's like bad erotica, it's bad writing, it's absolutely delightful.
And they sit and read it out loud and then basically comment on it, right?
Yeah, they just like drag on the book.
It's like, how did this get made? But for your dad's writing.
Yes, and every once in a while they remind him, they're like, hey, James, your dad wrote this. Don't forget that. Your dad wrote
that. That
this.
is amazing.
It's so funny. I'm in the middle of book 4 right now, which is part of, they call it like the untouched. So like the first 4 books were written before they started the podcast. They were already written and published. So 5th book onward, the podcast has already been going. So I haven't gotten to book 5 yet. I'm still in book 4.
Oh my god!
But it's so
love
funny.
There's so many books.
Yeah.
There's even more now. Like, I don't know what he's up to now, but he might be in double digits.
And the dad knows he's doing this and just keeps writing books?
Oh yeah, no, the dad, so when they filmed the first episode, they like played it for his father and his family to be like, we want to make sure you're actually okay with this because we're razzing you the entire time. We're razzing you. Yeah. And dad's like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, no, I love it. You just don't get it, but you'll get it you'll get it at some point. He has a funny voice, so like he's just like, no, I'm doing great.
I want to get a hold of these books and read them for myself before I listen to the podcast where they make fun of it, because I need fresh eyes on this.
You absolutely can. They're on Amazon. It's Belinda Blinked is the book series.
Belinda Blinked, that's right.
Belinda Blinked, starring Belinda Blumenthal.
Oh my god.
And her ascension in the pots and pans industry.
Oh my god.
It takes some genre turns when you don't expect it.
The pots and pans.
Pots and pans. She's a regional sales manager for Steele's Pots and Pans.
Oh my god.
And she sells things by tits out.
Works every time.
It's so good.
Oh my god.
I think that I missed my calling. This is what I'm doing from now on. Bye.
Learned that my mother, one of my mother's good best friends, has a daughter who's a couple years older than I am, and she had like a full-on professional career, was like hardcore for a long time doing stuff, and then she decided she was just going to start writing romance novels. And now she writes romance novels and sells them on Amazon, and they're all like steamy, you know,
Like the
You can make good
sell.
money.
heaving breasts
I
and
swear
buttress of Windsor or whatever.
you should do
we
this.
have to do it.
You make good money in that industry. If you
Like,
can write like a good romance.
Novel in
It's
Hex.
true.
You just churn them out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
And I
also
like
am. You know what I should do is I should write. What I'll write is romance, film noir erotica. Do you remember the film noir I wrote for you and sent you?
Mhm.
His office was large but felt small, like him.
You really, really need to listen to My Dad Wrote a Porno. It is
I
so
can't wait. This is gonna be.
we're gonna
Yeah.
definitely do that.
And if you guys haven't listened to, do you like fiction podcasts?
Sure.
Did you listen to The Horror of Dolores Roach?
no, but I love that name.
Is
If
it scary?
you dig scary and you dig like outrageous, you have got to listen to this podcast.
The Horror of Dolores Roach.
The Horror of Dolores Roach. It is bananas. And one of the voices is Bobby Cannavale. He's fantastic. The whole thing, I almost stopped listening to it at one point because I was like, this is just too much.
Wow.
It's
Like too
far
scary?
out there. I can't get on board with this. But then I was like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Oh,
So you should definitely check that out.
What's like the log line? What's the elevator pitch?
The elevator pitch would be a woman who is recently released from prison, takes up a job at her old friend's empanada shop, and they start selling really special empanadas.
Oh, I
It's
guess
Sweeney Todd. It's gotta be Sweeney Todd. I'm so excited. I'm into this. No, I've been doing a lot of podcasts because you can just like listen while you work and
Oh
draw
my
and
God.
everything.
It is wonderful.
wow.
The voice performances are amazing. It's so good. So I would definitely check it out. But it really is not for the faint of heart, because there were points where I mean, even my friend who suggested it to me, she was like, there were several points where I was like, fuck this shit. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough for me. I'm afraid of
Bob,
that.
I'm done. And then I would text her and she'd be like, I'm back on my bullshit. I can't give it up.
Is it like Jump the Shark done, or is it like horror done, or what?
It was like, I think it was a mix of both.
Okay.
But you just have to listen to it.
Are we
yeah.
talking like outrageous, like American Horror Story outrageous?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
And then
No
follow up.
spoilers.
Okay, so we're here at the end.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much
Yo.
for
Tell
joining.
us where we can find your stuff.
Everybody, where we can find you guys.
Yeah.
So our website is wastelandcomics.com, and all of our social media is linked there because I have yet to memorize which URLs go with which website.
Yeah, it was a pain trying to find the same URL that fits for every single one when your comic's name is Glitch. So
That was a marketing mistake on our part. We'll do better next time.
and then Wasteland Comics was too long for like a Twitter handle. So we're like, well, that doesn't work for Twitter then. Cool.
But wastelandcomics.com, everything's at some combination of Glitch or Glitch Comics.
Awesome.
And then our comic is hosted on the Macroverse app, which you can get on the Play Store, iPhone Store. I'm not an Apple person, but wherever you get your apps.
Awesome.
Free to download, and then you can read. I think right now the first episode's free, and then you subscribe. And we've got, I think, 6 episodes up right now. The 7th one should be coming up soon.
Great.
No, 7, 8,
We'll
something.
put all of this information in the show notes too, so anybody who's watching can just find you guys real easily.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so
guys
much.
Guys, so
Like, you guys are always phenomenal.
Yeah, chatting with y'all is such a freaking delight.
Oh,
I asked permission if I could swear, and then I'm out here like, it's a freaking delight. It's fucking awesome.
awesome.
You guys are awesome. It only works because the people we talk to are so cool.
Totally.
Y'all are so cool that you attract the cool people. You've done the groundwork.
Thank you.
Oh,
and-
goodness.
Yes.
Butter,
Please
just
don't. But do.
All right, you guys take good care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Keep up the
Yeah.
incredible work. Don't be strangers.
Mm-mm.
And
Never mind.
hopefully, sooner than later, we'll be able to actually meet each other in the meat world.
Oh man.
Looking forward to it. I still got to karaoke with you guys at some point.
Oh man.
Yes.
We're gonna burn the house down when this thing.
We're able to finally get our people together for some singing of songs.
Mhm.
The world is not even going to know what hit them. It's going to be bigger than Band-Aid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
It's going to be Band-Aid karaoke.
Cannot wait.
I love it. All right, guys.
All right,
have an
you guys.
awesome night. Thanks so much.
You guys.
Bye.
Subscribers, see you next